There's one number that quietly breaks more people than any other. It isn't $100,000. It isn't even $10,000. It's $1,000, your very first one. Because saving that first $1,000 is genuinely mathematically harder than saving the $10,000 that comes after it. And if your account is sitting at $340 right now, or $88, or somewhere uncomfortably close to zero, and a small voice in your head has already decided you're just bad with money, stay with me. Because you're not bad with money. You're standing at the single hardest point of the entire climb, and almost nobody warns you it's coming. Once you understand why, the whole thing gets lighter. So stay to the end, because I'm going to show you the exact moment it flips, the point where saving stops fighting you and quietly starts working for you instead. I'm Sam, and on this channel we do money the calm way. No hype, no get-rich-quick noise, just the honest mechanics of how wealth actually builds over time. If you've ever felt like the only person still stuck at the starting line, subscribe. Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why your own brain fights that first $1,000 so hard and the precise point where it stops fighting and starts helping. Let's start with a question. When you picture someone who's genuinely good with money, what do you see? Probably someone disciplined, someone who saves without even thinking about it, someone who, unlike you, just doesn't feel that pull to spend. Here's the reassuring truth. That person is fighting the exact same instincts you are. They've simply learned to work with them instead of against them. Because the gap between people who build wealth and people who don't has surprisingly little to do with income, and almost everything to do with a few invisible forces most people never even notice. The first one has a name: temporal discounting. It sounds technical, but you feel it every single day. Your brain values a reward you can have right now, far more than a bigger reward waiting in the future. $50 spent on dinner tonight feels vivid and real. That same $50 saved for a version of you that doesn't exist yet barely registers. You're not weak for feeling that, you're human. And it goes deeper than habit, it's wiring. For almost all of human history, the people who survived were the ones who used what they had the moment they had it, because tomorrow was never promised. That ancient software is still running in you. So every time you try to hold on to money instead of spending it, an old part of your brain quietly panics. What if you need it now? That's not a character flaw. That's biology doing its job a few thousand years too late. Now here's where it gets interesting, because there's a second force, and this one is even sneakier. Psychologists call them money scripts, the beliefs about money you absorbed as a kid, long before you earned a cent. Maybe you grew up hearing that money was stressful, or that people like you don't get to have much of it. These scripts never announce themselves. They just sit in the background, quietly steering decisions you think you're making freely. So stack these up. On day one, you have no momentum and no proof. Every dollar you save has to be dragged out of raw willpower, against instincts that are millions of years old, on top of stories you didn't even choose. And nothing is helping you yet. No growth, no interest, no momentum. It's just you against your own wiring. That is the hardest phase of building wealth. Not because you're doing it wrong, because you're doing the heaviest lifting with the least support. And this is exactly where most people quit. They see a number crawling forward and decide the whole thing is broken. What they don't realize is how close they are to the moment everything changes. Because once that number crosses a certain line, the same psychology that was working against you turns around and starts working for you. There's a concept called self-efficacy, your belief in your own ability to follow through. When you have nothing saved, $10,000 feels abstract, almost fictional. Your brain can't picture it, so it doesn't really try. But the moment you save your first $1,000, something clicks. For the first time, you have proof. You are, right there in black and white, a person who saves money. And that single piece of evidence rewrites the story you've been telling yourself for years. This isn't a pep talk. It's measurable. People who save their first $1,000 are dramatically more likely to save the next one than people starting from zero. The hardest dollar you'll ever save is the one that comes right before you believe you can. And that's the quiet turning point this whole video is about. Not a lottery win, not a sudden raise, Just a threshold, the moment your own proof finally outweighs your old doubt. Everything before it is uphill. Everything after it starts, slowly, to tilt in your favor. Now, let me show you the part that turns that belief into something mechanical, where your effort slowly stops being the main character. And I'm going to be honest with you about this, because most channels aren't. Say you save $100 a month. At $100 a month, your first $1,000 takes about 10 months. 10 months of small, quiet no's. 10 months of a number that barely seems to move. And here's the honest part. During those 10 months, almost nothing is helping you. There's no meaningful growth yet. The balance is too small for it to matter. It really is just you and your discipline. That's not a flaw in the plan. That's the plan's hardest chapter, and it comes first. But watch what happens as the balance grows. You keep saving that same $100 a month, except now the money is invested and earning an ordinary long-term return. Let's use 7% a year, a reasonable, unexciting number. At first, the help is tiny. On your second $1,000, growth might shave off a week or two, barely noticeable. But it never stops building. By the time you're saving your 10th $1,000, your existing balance is quietly adding real money every month, and each new milestone arrives faster than the last. Here's the moment it flips. Once you've got $10,000 invested, that money earns roughly $700 a year entirely on its own, whether you're working, sleeping, or doing nothing at all. That's several months of your saving, handed to you for free. For the first time, you are no longer the only thing moving the number forward. And from there, it compounds. At $20,000 invested, you're earning around $1,400 a year without lifting a finger. At $50,000, it's roughly $3,500 a year, nearly 3 times what you started out saving on your own, happening automatically in the background. At that point, your money is contributing more than you are. Notice what that quietly means for you. You never had to save more. You put away the same $100 a month the whole way through. Nothing about you had to become more disciplined or more impressive. You simply stayed in long enough for the math to wake up and start carrying its share. That's the real secret, not intensity, endurance. In the beginning, 100% of the progress came from your willpower. Later, more and more of it comes from the money itself. The first $1,000 was pure effort. Everything after is effort plus momentum, and momentum only grows. And this is where your whole relationship with money begins to change, gently, almost without your noticing. Most people think saving is about giving things up, but somewhere past that first milestone, it stops feeling like deprivation and starts feeling like building. You open your account, and instead of dread, there's a small, steady satisfaction. Money stops looking like something to spend and starts looking like what it really is: options. The option to breathe, to walk away from a job that's draining you, to face an emergency without your stomach dropping. That's what people mean when they say the first stretch is the hardest. It was never really about the math. It was about the transformation that happens when you finally prove to yourself that you're capable of this. Once that belief is in place, everything downstream gets easier to carry. And the calmer you stay through the hard part, the more obvious it becomes that you were never bad at this. You were just early. And the reason it feels so heavy at the start isn't that you're behind, or lazy, or bad with money. It's that you're doing the hardest part, building momentum from a dead stop with the least help you'll ever have. But dead stops don't last. Momentum always comes. And when it does, the effort that once felt impossible starts to feel almost automatic. So if you're sitting there tonight with a number that feels too small, reframe what you're actually looking at. That number isn't proof that this doesn't work. It's proof that you're standing in the hardest, most important stretch of the whole journey, the one almost everyone abandons right before it starts to pay off. You don't need to save aggressively forever. You don't need a bigger income before you begin. You just need to get through the first quiet stretch, let momentum take over, and then refuse to stop. Before you go, I'd genuinely like to know, how long did your first $1,000 take you? Or how close are you to it right now? Tell me in the comments. Sometimes seeing someone just a few steps ahead is exactly the proof your brain needs to keep going. Save the first $1,000. Prove it to yourself. Then let the calm, patient math take it from there. Your future self is already counting on it.